Blog Talk Radio.
And we are back for another week. It could be any day, any time right now that you're listening to us right now. This is Late Night Parents, special edition tonight, because this is coming to you on a Tuesday night, January 19th, 2016. We want to thank the folks that listen to the show. We want to thank the folks that reach out to us. You reach out to us on Facebook.com/Late Night Parent. The folks that reach out to us, Twitter.com, Late Night Parent, or you who contact me directly at Real Ted Hicks. And the folks that go to latenightparents.com, or those of you that are lazy that go to lnp.tv. So those are the ways to get in contact with us. Usually I'm on the Happy Hour Network down the dial. Tonight is something special. It's a special episode, but the number here is 646-727-1963. I used to rock the mic on this line for many, many years, and we're not going to have 3 or 4 or 5 different guests. This is not going to be a 2-hour show. As you know, this is a free-flowing conversation. And I've got my partner in crime joining me tonight, your partner in crime. His name is Hezzie McCaleb, but I affectionately know him as H5. You can find him on Twitter, genuinely H5. Hez, what's going on?
Hey, man, I'm good, man. Thanks for that awesome intro, brother.
Come on. And we're going to start this off right here because we got to clear the air a little bit between myself and Hez, because I got to tell you, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. 4 or 5 years ago, I was just a blogger, and I was happy about being a blogger, doing all types of, pieces and promotions and everything else like that for the various different agencies. And one day, Ez and I have had a working relationship, how we first met each other. So it was a professional relationship, and then it kind of morphed onto the personal side when we got to know each other, when I traveled down to Maitland, Florida one day. And I was happy to see someone that looked just like me. And I'm not afraid to say that. And along with that, personally, you introduced me into and with open arms to barbershop sports and inside the barber's seat, inside the barber shop, the various spinoffs from that whole company and the various shows. And I got to thank you for that, first and foremost.
Absolutely, man. And, you never know how things are going to go, but I'm glad that you and I had that opportunity to work together, and you got a chance to, expand on, what you were already doing in online media. So, we had a lot of fun on Barbershop Sports. We, interviewed all kinds of people and, took that podcast to another level, working together. So I'm proud to say that, we had that opportunity to work together.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We met a lot of people, as you mentioned, along the way. So it's just good to be able to, every once in a while, come back to your roots. Because whenever I come on the Filthy Dish, it feels like home. It's a different atmosphere, because I'm sitting here trying to be Tavis Smiley, but we get to the point where I come back to the dish and I could just be myself, so that's the great thing about it. Along with that, all the people from Bucko to B-Ride to Danny to Espo, all the folks along the way that helped build the brand and really enhance your vision of the shop, and it's good to see that, like I said, there's spinoffs all over the place. So it's really nothing but good feelings, and you and I are personal friends outside of the professional or podcasting world. We sit around and can talk like a bunch of old ladies and talk about what's going on with life, and this got me crazy, and so I guess this is going to be one of those type of discussions tonight. I want to thank our radio partners that play Late Night Parents every week. You and I are one. Life Improvement Radio, NGSC Sports that powers us on the iHeart Radio app, I-95 Sports. All these names are familiar to you, Hez, because we were able to make these connections through Barbershop Sports. Got to thank Tiz Shearer, XRP in the UK. Got to thank our friends out in New Zealand. Got to thank our friends out in Edmonton. So people near and far were introduced to Barbershop Sports. As we know, Barbershop Sports is something that happened in the past. Could it come back? We don't know. That's one of those wait and sees. But right now, that's the past. We're talking about the present. I haven't spoken with you since 2016 has come around. Tell me what's going on with you.
Wow, I'm back in school right now. I'm actually pursuing a certification as a professional coach. At this juncture, I believe I'm going to specialize in career coaching, where I'm going to help folks that are in a career that it's not really their passion, and how to help them connect with their passion, and then put a plan around that to be able to find a career that is their passion. And I can relate to that, myself, because me, man, we talk all the time about whether it was from Barbershop Sports, the blog, or Barbershop Sports, the podcast, or the Filthy Dish, or even our conversations about Late Night Parents. It's always trying to take things to the next level. So I really have been wrapped up with that. So I kind of been on hiatus from podcasting the last couple of months, but just sitting here by this mic right now, I'm getting the itch again. So I definitely want to get back into podcasting for 2016.
I think you hit on several key topics. You hit on, because our passion is really in with what we're doing by day. Though we are IT professionals, managers, executives by day, but I think the passion is really what we do in the evening. Once that 9 to 5, even though there are no 9 to 5s anymore, but when you can take off that work hat and sit here and say we're into podcasting, because I think in about 4 or 5 months we're going to be in Chi-Town at the Podcast Movement convention, where we're going to be able to get together and talk with other like-minded people, because everyone is about, it's something you mentioned to me many, many years ago, and a few other people have mentioned to me about, it's all about entrepreneurship. It's about, sitting, and I don't want to put myself in a box and say, I don't want to work for the man, the man is holding us down, but it's really more about working for yourself, fulfilling your vision, seeing what you want to do, and that's where your passion is. And I think that's important. And the other piece you touched upon is coaching, professional coaching. Last week, I had a conversation with Dr. Hope. She's a health coach, and she's going to tell you, the benefits. Now, she's a gynecologist by trade. But everything else behind that it's about her business. It's about, for her niche is ensuring that she's able to coach and train women over the age of 40 that are trying to, I guess, get back into the work environment. But first, she wants them to take care of themselves. So when you say coaching, I mean, Hez, I was shocked because I was doing my research for this interview that was coming up. Yeah, I had my cut sheet in front of me, but I was doing some additional, going on YouTube, on her YouTube page, finding out her program, some of the benefits to it, and finding out that coaching itself is a $2 billion industry. And that's $2 billion from back in 2012. It's a $2 billion industry. So you've definitely, as usual, on the cutting edge, and kind of how to shake and move. It's definitely a profession to get into, and it's key with what you just said. Hey, people that are trying to make that change, that industry change, a lot of times it's a lot harder than what we expect it to be. It's different for us because we didn't grow up and say, hey, we're going to be IT people. We had other professions. And then we kind of stumbled into the IT profession because it was around that internet bubble. It was around that Windows 3.1, Windows 95, because between you and I, we got over 35 years worth of IT experience. But having that IT experience is helpful to us because we're able to take and make that online presence so important because we understand what it's about. So that's one thing about it. We understand the tools and technologies behind it. And that makes it easier because I think you and I went to NABJ conference in 2012 or 2013, and we were both shocked to find out how far they were behind on the technology. So I think it's key in our life and in our travels and what we plan to do. And I'm expecting you and I to knock the socks off some of these people this summer because of where we've been, where we are now, and what we want to do, that vision you and I have kind of talked about, and seeing where we want to go with this. So I think you're definitely on the right page. What are some of your thoughts about so you started the certification class. What's your initial thoughts?
Oh man, I mean, it is probably one of the most powerful experiences that I've had, in my life. I attended my first class down at Florida International University in Miami in November, and really understanding what coaching is, because a lot of people who think coach, they think, sports coach, or they think somebody that's, kind of like that positive voice saying you can do it or something like that. But I mean, it's really, more complex than that. I mean, a coach really is a master facilitator in helping an individual get from point A to point B. Helping them to focus and be accountable for the things that they say that they want to do. They actually kind of break it down, and they call it different modalities. So you have, therapy, psychotherapy, which would be, a modality for people that have emotional wounds. But coaching is a modality for folks that are pretty much emotionally healthy, but they don't know how to connect the dots to take that next step in their lives for whatever reason. We talk about it as we call them gales, and those are, for instance, it breaks down in gremlins, which is your own inner voice that tells you that you can't do something for one reason or another, or assumptions. You're assuming you can't do it, or some kind of false interpretation, which is the I part of the Gale, and finally the L, which is limiting beliefs that stop people from doing something. Case in point, I can't be as successful as a black man in America as a white man in America because I'm black. That's a classic what we would call limiting belief that a lot of people, have that holds them back from taking the next step. So for me going down there and really understanding what it's about and diving deep, and right now I'm doing peer coaching and being coached by, a peer, doing peer group sessions and doing these classes every week. It's deep. It's a lot, man, but I'm excited about it.
That's good. That's good, because the key thing about it is you're engaged. So is it to a point where so when you're at work, and I don't know if you're comfortable with talking about this, are you thinking, because a lot of times I'm at work and I'm thinking about podcasting, or I'm thinking about, hey, I've got to touch base with this person or that person. So when you're at your daytime gig, do you spend some time, even if it's a couple seconds, thinking about the coaching and how you're progressing? Because it's not just helping you professionally, it's helping you personally. It's helping you be a better person. I mean, are you taking some of these skills that you're picking up along the way? Are you kind of reversing them and using them on yourself? And do you see a change in within you?
Absolutely. I mean, I will say that after years of, kind of beating my head up against the wall, if you want to call it that, and having these ideas and this vision and wanting to take things to the next level and kind of getting to a point and not reaching that point, it kind of built up a lot of negativity in me, and that energy was in me even when I didn't know it was in me. So since I can testify that since I've started taking these classes and understanding that process, absolutely I've been using it on myself. Just case in point, when 2016 hit, I put up a vision board for myself. I put up a whiteboard right next to it, and the goal for that is to have that vision in front of me, but the whiteboard is to break down my SMART objectives to achieve those things, and it's really been helping me out tremendously, really. I mean, that's the best word that I could find right here in this space and time. It's really been helping me out, and also it's beneficial because I'm able to use it in the day-to-day when I'm working with my staff and helping them to get from point A to point B with the goals that they have, as far as wanting to move to different departments or take on a different role within the department that we're already in. So it's been helping out quite a bit. And yes, during the day, I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm not scared to say it. I do think about it because it's my favorite part of what I do. Part of my job is focused on stats, and there's an HR piece to it, and there's some other things there. But my favorite part is actually working with individuals and helping them realize their potential and achieving their goals. That's my favorite part of the job.
So you kind of get people to where they need to go, or that's one aspect of your job, because if you aren't building that person professionally, then are you failing that person, or is it kind of based on you have to? So it's kind of like you're doing some on-the-job training as you're learning, because you can then turn around, because I mean, I hate to say, because we all have them, but at some certain point you have victims right there. Some would say clients, some would say patients. I jokingly say victims, that you can turn around and use some of the skill set on them, because, that way you can see, hey, is this working? Is this something I really want to get into? Is this something that, I'm going to stick with? So with the certifications, is there just one certification, or is there multiple certifications?
Well, actually, at the school that I'm attending, the school is called the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, and it's accreditation through the International Federation of Coaches. So when I'm finished with this, I will be certified as a professional coach, and I'll also be certified as master energy practitioner. So what that is basically people, when they're reacting to different things or things are holding them back, they're in different states of energy. Just to kind of give an example, we talk about level 1 energy, which is apathy, and the victim energy, like you just used not too long ago, the victim. Level 2 is anger and confrontation, and 3 is cooperation. So basically mastering that chart and being able to not only master your own emotions and energy, but helping people to shift. So if you're working with someone that's feeling like a victim, like, they're at the mercy of the system, they're at the mercy of the man or whatever in their mind, they feel like that's holding them back. The goal for a coach is to help them shift that energy to where they can get into a space where they can start feeling not only positive about whatever they want to accomplish, but they're in a better space to be focused on it as well. So it'll actually be 2 certifications there.
Do you ever see yourself in a position where you would be like a T3, like a train-the-trainer type situation where you would be the master instructor for like a class of, newbies or, just a class of students, kind of like reversing the situation that you're in now? Do you see yourself sometime in the future training other people that, and I understand that professionally you would have to work for that organization that provides the certification, but with this certification or if there's another certification you have to get on top of this, would you ever see yourself in a situation where you would be training students on these techniques?
I've witnessed a couple of great coaches out there that are currently, they have their own practices and they work for the school where I'm going right now. So they're, I would say professionally in a really, really good space. I do like teaching. And I like working with people, and I call it seeing the people reach those aha moments. So at some point after I get it under my belt, I could see myself teaching down the road.
Cool. Well, I want to thank you for just, being frank as always with the coaching, because, I've been wanting to chase you down to talk about coaching and how it's been going on, just the entire process. And I mean, from what I've known of you, you've always been, ahead of the game on something. So when you mentioned this and I just happened to do my research, I was like, there he is. He's at it again, and he's dead on. I want to briefly switch topic to podcasting. We've talked about podcasting. We've talked about our likes, some of our dislikes, some of the platforms. Some of the things that, hey, there's ease of use. And yes, we are on Blog Talk Radio, but this is by no means an endorsement of Blog Talk, because we talk about whatever we want to talk about on Blog Talk. I think I will say this much. When you look at the packages, and we can name all the 1 million packages that are out there, small, medium, and large, Blog Talk just puts it together the easiest for even like the novice person. Just the platform of being able to go in there, set up your show, and man your switchboards, handle the telecom piece. Do they always do it well? No, they don't. Do they have a lot of issues? Yes, they do. But I'm guessing with the clientele that they have, when I'm sure subscriptions are around about 100,000. Because, every time you go in there, you can find various shows, any given topic. But I wanted to ask you, Hez, because you've been doing this a lot longer, this side of the house than I've been doing. What are some of your thoughts, likes, dislikes on the packages that are out there?
Well, I think that a novice, somebody new to podcasting definitely has to decide, a couple of things. One, are they going to, pre-record their show, or do they want to have a live piece? In my experience, after doing live shows, for years, I would say that until you have a built-in audience that's going to call in and support the show, it's probably better to work from a pre-recorded standpoint, because then you can, edit out any mistakes before you put it up. And there's different platforms out there. I mean, there's Spreaker, there's Blog Talk Radio, like we were just talking about. You can record it yourself and host it on Libsyn, which you then can pump it out to other places. So, I mean, there's a lot of things, but I think that, circling back to Blog Talk, as far as having everything in one package, for $39.99 or whatever for the basic package, I haven't seen any of the other ones bring as much to the table as Blog Talk does. Well, like you said, you have your switchboard, you can have your call-in number, you can go live or you can pre-record. It's recording at a pretty decent bit rate now. I think it's like 128 or something like that. So Blog Talk, and again, this is not an endorsement, but just for those podcasters out there that maybe trying to get into podcasting or not comfortable where they are, it's definitely something to think about.
It definitely is. I will say this much. So I do a baseball show on Saturdays called Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue. We talk food, we talk alcohol, we talk baseball. And I will tell you this much. After all this time, so I do it. The setup is similar to yours, Hez. I use a MacBook. I have a CAD mic, and I have my headphones. But I got to tell you, what I've noticed is I've had a lot less issues not using Skype to dial in. I've been using the Direct Connect feature.
Mm-hmm.
Flawless. Because usually around about the 35-minute mark, I start to sound like Megatron. So I started, being the techs that we are, we started pulling things back and saying, okay, let me peel this back and let me see if I can go with this feature. But I got to tell you, the high-fidelity sound, the package is excellent. Like I said, I personally use Spreaker. I've used Blueberry for the format for podcasting, just as you've used Libsyn. Of course, we all use iTunes. I don't use Stitcher, but I haven't heard a bad thing about them. I just started using Audio Boom, just as another place to post it. I like Spreaker. Why? Because it allows me to plug in my tie-ins. So when I upload to Spreaker, it automatically goes to iTunes, it goes to Blueberry, it goes to SoundCloud, it goes to YouTube. That's the one thing I can say, where it might not have a great telecom piece, the fact that it has the APIs, the plugins are already set. All you got to do is log in once, you take that one file, you upload it, boom, and it's everywhere, and it's already pushed out. And the stats feature is great too. I mean, on both of those products. I'm sure also on Libsyn too. I don't have any issues with Podbean or anyone else. I just don't use their products. I don't use their products because I don't want to be to the point of doing a pod and having to upload to 16 different places. I want to be able to do a pod, upload to like maybe a maximum 3 places, and that's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done, and it's on to the next one. I want to touch or grab a touchy subject, and it's going to get a little people kind of pissed, because I know people are expecting the usual. This is Ted talking about technology and parenting and everything else like that, and being lighthearted and getting my gumble on, but this is really not that tonight. So I just want to touch upon a touchy subject, and I'll approach it first. And I love, this is not our radio partners that we've worked with over the years, but I just love when you sit here with some of these, or just the internet radio type CEOs that I've spoken with over the years that want to charge you for providing your own content, knowing that they need content, and they're using the same plugins that you use, which I'm sitting back, you know, I had to tell one person about himself. I'll leave his name out, but I had to tell him because he was like, oh, well, this is what it's going to cost. It's going to cost $3,000 a month. And I said, for what? What am I paying $3,000 a month for? I said, I see no benefit. You were sitting in your house doing XYZ. Why would I pay you $3,000 a month? And I said, for content that I'm producing. And it's just like, it just seems like sometimes there's a disconnect out there. There's a huge disconnect out there amongst some of these people. But like I said, this happened maybe about 6 months ago. And I guess, you know, maybe I would see it different if we were in an actual studio and it was like an engineer was involved. There's call letters involved. You have you know, an FM or AM transmitter. I just don't get it. I mean, I don't know your take on that. I don't know if you've experienced that, but I kind of had to give a couple of these people a side eye, and kind of like I said, tell them about themselves. I just, if you're generating your own content, I was about to turn around and say, hey, you should be paying me. If I'm giving you free content, that you're not getting from anywhere else. And last time I checked, if you consider yourself a real radio station, then you should be about, you know, that's 168 hours a week. And maybe you have programming for 84 of those hours a week, let's say 12 hours a day. And if I'm giving you an hour of content, and then on top of it, you're going to take that show and you're going to re-air it another 3 times. I mean, have some of these people lost their minds?
I mean, look, you know the old saying, there's a sucker born every day. And you know, we together, you know, in the barbershop sports era of trying to get barbershop sports more syndication and on more internet stations, when we decided to just kind of go the you know, I guess the guerrilla radio route instead of, you know, going full on for pursuing terrestrial or satellite.
Right. Right.
Because, I mean, even when we were walking down that, you know, going down that alley, you know, people were trying to charge you $300 just to have a conversation, $300 an hour to have a conversation.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Not putting you on the air, have a conversation. And if that, you know, let that sink in. But these folks on the internet radio, I mean, this is kind of still a new thing. It hasn't, you know, established itself. But again, you know, because we have that IT background, we know that if we give these folks our content, they can do the same thing that we can do, really, more or less.
Right.
You know, so yeah,
right.
It is really annoying, and I feel sorry for the people that really don't know any better and end up, you know, getting sold up the river and not really getting what they thought they were going to get. You know, thinking they're going to get exposed to this much bigger audience, and their shows are going to, you know,
right.
get sponsors, and it just doesn't happen that way.
I had someone recently tell me for a terrestrial spot, hey, Ted, I listened to the show. It's great. It's going to be $350 a show. We air on XYZ station. Yes, it's located in, you know, any town in the U.S. So we could say remote USA. So I'm sitting there saying, okay, so I got a 60-minute podcast. I said, I got to cut it up 4 different ways because we got to do the intervals of the commercials. So they basically told me for 50, for my 60-minute podcast, it needs to get reduced to a 48-minute podcast. Of that 12 minutes that's going to be open, 6 minutes I would use for my commercials, 6 minutes a week from their commercials, and it's $350 a week. So I had to sit there. And I had to take a moment, and I was going to blast them. And I just said, you know what, I'm not going to blast them. I just told them, no, thank you. And I left it at that. You know, I get Christian and we came out. You know, it's but I'm glad that person did come because I was that person. And you got a lot of people out there that are taking advantage of a lot of these people out there, selling them. I don't know, even a wet dream. You know, because I mean, if you go into certain places, you know, I've heard stories of people going into certain places. Let's say an adult nightclub where ladies are dancing around. I mean, and they're selling drugs. It's kind of like on that level where you're sitting there. You got to sit back and say, you know, what is going on here? And you've got to have that moment of clarity. You've got to have that self-confidence. You've got to be able to search, you know, yourself and have a better understanding of the situation rather than, you know, being that starstruck person thinking, oh, I'm going to get this, I'm going to do this podcast, and next thing you know, 1 million people are going to download it, and I'm going to be an overnight sensation. You know, I think you got a better chance in going into Chipotle and getting yourself burrito, you know, than running into something like that. I just wanted your take on that. Something you and I talked about previously. As we know, there's things going on with the Academy Awards. You know, you had Jada Pinkett Smith and Spike Lee. You got people stepping up, talking about they're boycotting it, and they want Chris Rock to boycott because something is going on. People aren't voting for African Americans, or they're not being valued. Hez, I'm going to ask you your take on that. I'll give you my take on it, and we're going to move on. But it's a topic we can't dance around because it's out there. It's out there. And you and I were talking tonight. Chris Rock is the host this year. The producer is also African American, and I think the CEO of the Academy is also an African American. So with that being said, give me your take on the Academy, the awards. Is there any type of legitimacy to this claim? Is it not? What's your thoughts on that, brother?
And I'm going to do my best to not deviate from just this specific question because, you know, I can go there.
Of course.
And if I was off, and if this was a filthy dish, I would definitely be going there along with Nicole and Stacey. But I do think it's very suspicious that 2 years in a row, the movies that have been submitted, the performances that have been reviewed, out of all of the movies, you know, that have the chance to be looked at, that there is no diversity, you know, in those categories. And yeah, it does, you know, I can understand why people would question it. But, you know, I think questioning it is one thing. In order to get some kind of change in the past, anytime people wanted something to change, you know, they did something about it. You know, whether it was in the 60s, you know, marching and boycotting things or whatever they had to do to put pressure on the powers that be to make a change. And even though I hear a couple of folks, you know, like Jada Pinkett and you know, I heard Snoop Dogg talk about it a little bit on Instagram and, you know, a couple other people speak on it. I really don't see anything from the A-listers, you know, that have said anything contrary to what's happening in the status quo. Now, I did see, and forgive me if I mispronounce this guy's name, David Oyelowo, who played Martin Luther King in the Selma movie. And he's up there. His career is really kind of taken off a bit. He spoke out and denounced the Academy, saying that their decisions don't reflect the diversity in cinema, the diversity in the world. And he's right. He's right. I mean, it doesn't. But the thing about the Academy is we don't know who's in that, who's on it, who's voting, and the other side of that is what's the criteria. There's no transparency there, and they really need to find a way to make us, the people, that support the airing of this show more transparent. I mean, we know in the Golden Globes, at least, that the folks in the Screen Actors Guild Award, the Screen Actors Guild, vote for those folks there, the nominees there. But the Academy, it's just some mysterious board. So yes, they do have a black host, and the producer is black, and the CEO is black. But clearly, there's still an issue with how these films get reviewed. What's the process there? Because I mean, I could even go with the awards that they did dole out. Like, let's take Denzel Washington for Training Day. If you look at Denzel Washington's body of work, was that his best performance? Was that the best movie he's ever been in? Absolutely not. Halle Berry for Monsters Ball. Again, was that her best work? That's debatable. But the thing that these two folks got nominated for, when you look at a host of all the other types of performances, great, some of them, that don't even get consideration for folks, not just African Americans. I mean, I'm just going to put it out there, all minorities. So there's an issue there. That's for sure.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. All around. I wanted to take. I'm just going to say one word to you. Cosby.
Well, I mean, we've definitely talked about that on the Filthy Dish, up and down, backwards and forwards. But these. I'm not saying that this guy didn't do anything, that wasn't questionable. But, these folks are putting these charges, these trumped up charges that they can't even really make stick. And so me observing all of these things, I'm like, what are they really trying to do here? What is the object here? And I'm not even going to go down that conspiracy theory of, some years ago when they said he tried to buy NBC and, all of that. I'm not even going there. But, like the charges in L.A., they couldn't make stick. Now there's some charges in, Chester County or somewhere in Pennsylvania, about the Temple employee. But even that is very questionable. So if they don't have any real concrete evidence other than hearsay, and you got folks talking about stuff that happened 30 years ago, some of them which took payments, in settlements. I mean, if you really wanted justice, in my opinion, you go for justice. Now I do take into consideration the feelings that some people may have, after going through something like that. They may not want to go out there because it's very humiliating. But if you want justice, brother Ted, you do certain things to seek that justice, and you don't wait 30 years to go about doing it. As far as Cosby goes, he's done a lot of great stuff for education, but that doesn't mean he couldn't also have done some of these things. But at this point, Ted, there's other stuff going on in the world, man. There's a water crisis in Michigan. I tried not to deviate from the topics that Ted, but man, there's a water crisis.
You got to
Michigan,
do it.
Man.
You got to do it. Go ahead. There's people dying in Chicago. I believe I was talking with this earlier this morning with Stacey. I think over 100 people. It's not even the end of the month, and over 100 people are already dead in that city. I mean, that's a crisis in my opinion. So, there's some things that we really needed to divert our attention to that are really worthy of our attention. A 79-year-old man who may have done something, may or may not have done something 40, 50 years ago. I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about it at all, but there's more things that I think we should be focusing on. On the Bill Cosby piece, I just got to do this just for the people that used to listen to BSS. That wasn't to anybody, because you know how you do anything nowadays and it's played and, well, what did you mean by that? Are you being insensitive? No, we're not being insensitive. That's MP3 or WAV file we used to always play on BSS whenever something was questionable. So I don't know. It's a loaded topic. I had a discussion last week with someone. They wanted me to watch the Women of Cosby. There was that special that came out with I think the 40 or so women that made their statement against him and told some of their stories. I'm going to refrain because I wanted to watch that first. I don't know if you got a chance to see that.
No, I have not seen it yet.
I'm going to get the name of it. I'm going to tweet it to you because that's something we've got to check out. Hey, I want to know, did you how did you spend this weekend? How did you spend the weekend? Did you see some of those great divisional NFL games?
Unfortunately, and I kind of feel bad. Somebody that used to host a sports show for multiple years. I saw pieces of the game, but I did have a good reason for not seeing all of the games. I was in one of my good friend's wedding this weekend, so I was, doing rehearsal and at the dinner party and then at the wedding, so I didn't get a chance to see. But I heard some phenomenal things about Larry Fitzgerald and Aaron Rodgers, and that probably goes down as one of the best playoff games of all time, from what I hear.
Probably, I mean, and you'll laugh when I call out Miami and San Diego had a great game, I think in 83 or 84 that I saw where, it was kind of like Air Coryell going against Dan Marino. And as I mentioned, this was in 1984. Where most people are like, Ted, I was 2 years old at the time. And there I was, 27 years old.
In 1984. We was always joking with you about that on BSS too, man.
Here I was, 32 years old in 1984. And you like, really? Like, yo, dude, how old are you? No, but that game Saturday, oh, my goodness. Without a doubt, probably the playoff. I would say one of the games of the year. Aaron Rodgers is real as it gets. Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, that's who they should be calling Fitzmagic. Not the bum with the Jets. They should be calling him Fitzmagic. But Fitz He just rolled it back, and you said, is he 32 or is he 22 running that 75-yard pass? Because it was maybe an 8-yard pass. The other 67 yards he got on with his legs. and stiff-arming people and running across the field, and you was just like, oh my goodness. But it was a great game. But I want to step back on something you said. You were in a wedding.
Yes.
Hey, I love you like the little brother that you are. You were in a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
You had a prominent role in a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the first lady eyes must have been wide open. I know, because there's one thing. Before I got married, I think, if I'm not mistaken, before I got married, Pam and I, we went to a wedding, and boy, I mean, I didn't hear the end of it from that point on. So I don't know. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying, Hez, I guess I'll give you a premonition. I can see not only those pearly white gates for you down the road, but I could see marriage bells, or I can hear marriage bells, and I can hear great things happening for you. I'm not gonna put a timetable on it, but I'm letting you know, bachelorhood is coming to a close.
Like the old song, The Final Countdown, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's the final countdown. Yeah, man.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
It's to be expected, really. I mean, and when that time comes, brother, you're gonna be one of the first to know, man.
Oh, I better, and I'm gonna be laughing the entire way. Hey, I wanted to know because there was a lot of craziness going up here last week, but it wasn't just up in New York. It was all over the world. There was that Powerball was going for $1.5 million. Had me walking into McDonald's. I looked on the floor and I thought I saw a Powerball ticket. I was about to pick it up. It was it was crazy up here. But tell me, did you play the Powerball?
No, absolutely. I played it. The first lady played it. We had multiple tickets in this house, just hoping. Because, I mean, we were doing the math on what we would get in a lump sum after taxes. I mean, it was too good to pass up. I remember Nas, for the acclaimed rapper from Queens, had a line on one of his songs where he said that bottle, when he said that dollar that bought a bottle could have struck the lotto.
Oh my goodness! I'm gonna tell you this much.
Yeah.
As a Christian, I shouldn't be out there gambling, and I don't even know if you can call that gambling. But I'm gonna tell you this much: I don't know a person that probably did not buy a ticket. And I don't know if that's a sin or what, but I bought multiple tickets, Hez. I did one with the pool at work. I did my own private ones. Within that week, I think I bought maybe $20 in tickets.
Dude, I don't blame you in this. I got this theory now because somebody down here in Florida, I don't know if you know this, but somebody down here in Melbourne area won from a Publix. So my theory is, it rarely happens in the city. If you want to win, you're going to have to go out to some podunk country town, Brother Ted, and buy your lottery ticket there, because that seems to be the folks that always win, man. Somebody out in the middle of nowhere goes buys a lottery ticket from a little convenience store, and lo and behold, next thing you know, man, they riding in Maybachs and flying on private jets, man, and they was living in a trailer 2 weeks before.
You ain't joking. I was even considering driving out to Pennsylvania to go to like the local, local stationery type store to go get a ticket, because you look at overall, where most of these winners come out of, And like you said, it's not the big cities. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're shocked when you know, I'm not shocked when I hear, oh, it's North Iowa. You know, and you're like, what? You're like, what in the world's going on here? But my next question about that is not pertaining to the Powerball, but it's pertaining to what would you do if you had won that $1.5 billion, Hez? Before you answer that, I want you to answer, would you take the lump sum or would you take the 30-year payment?
Oh, man. I mean, I would be a fool if I was to take the 30-year payment. It's number one, for everybody out there that don't know this, that money that you win is only for you. So if you pass away before the end of the 30-year payments, that's done. It's over. So it's very smart. Let them take their taxes off the top, and you get your lump sum. So, yeah, I would definitely got the lump sum.
I will tell you this much. I was going back and forth and saying $33 million over a 30-year period. But like you said, you're not guaranteed. You could drop dead tomorrow. I mean, nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about that. And it's not like anything is going to be bequeathed to your kids or your family. But I would take the lump sum. Yes, living in New York, we pay probably the next to highest taxes outside of those people that live out west in Frisco and Silicon Valley. But I would take my $500 million, and I would be good. I want you. You know what? I'll jump into it first. Would I be, that person? I mean, would I resemble the gentleman that Richard Pryor played in Brewster's Millions? I don't.
That's a classic.
Will it be that? Yeah. Will I take up and be, hey, I'm just going to do great things across the world and feed the world, because it's, when you look at it, it's not Bill Gates type money. It's not like you can go and buy, you can go and deplete your cash and buy a professional sports team, but once you purchase that, then you're floating the rest of the money, So there's that piece of it. I mean, but after you take care of the family members, and after you buy daddy and mama the house they always wanted, and you got Ray and Deshaun that you making sure they got their record labels, and you making sure Uncle Roscoe has his liquor store, and this one got the clothing line. Then what? And that's where you kind of got to think. You say, okay, I'm going to take a X amount for the college tuition and all this other stuff, and then of course, you got to invest X amount of that money. But how much of it would you just blow, Hez? How much of it would you blow if it was just like you said, a $500 million payment? What amount would you say? You know what? I'm just going to ball out.
I think I would probably say between $5 and $10 million. I'm going ham sandwich. Like you said, you're taking care of your parents, you're taking care of your immediate family, and like you said, Ray, making sure he got his label. But that's it. Once you lay it out there especially for extended family, that's it. Don't come back. This is a one-time thing. Moms and and pops and brother, that's different. But for them, okay, taking care of it. I'm laughing as I'm thinking about it, because I could see myself going to my place of work right now with the same coat and the same hat that Frank Lucas had on in American Gangster. I mean, the exact one. I want the same mink coat and mink hat, and I'm walking into the office with that mink coat and hat on. So if you didn't know what time it is, you know what time it is now. And
goodness.
I probably would go into my office with the coat and the hat on and start working and just wait for somebody to tell me something I didn't want to hear.
You know what? I'm going to stop you right here and say we're at the 1 hour mark. And I want to thank our friends that were listening. We want to thank our radio partners. I forgot to mention Arena Sports Network. Brian Snow, want to thank you. All the other folks. We had a great show tonight. Want to thank you guys so much. Thanks for listening to the podcast. And we're going to go into our extended podcast right now. Okay. Now, Hez, I've done that for our 1 hour show because I got so many different people that only play the show in 1 hour time frames and, you know, the time slices. I want to go back to your story about American Gangster, because I think you would really just show out. I think you would just lose your mind. I know that without a doubt.
I've been waiting on this a long time, man. I've been waiting on my just due, you know, and so if I was to get it like that in a lump sum, oh man, Ted. Next thing you know, I want you to look out the window there and look down in the parking lot, and I want you to see that Tesla.
Oh my God!
Sitting outside. I want them to look out there and see that, and say, "Do you still need me here?" Because I'll stay if you say you still need me, I'll stay. But I want you to take into account this mink coat and that Tesla.
I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. Because, you know, I think, initially you would act a fool. Because I know I would act a fool. And then, you know, I mean, it's so funny because when you run into a situation like that and you say, okay, you can't really stay in the house that you, or the place that you're living right now. You can't stay.
No.
And
you got to go put up in the hill somewhere, man.
Yeah, you do. You do. You know, and like for me, I would have to go far out east. Out east, Long Island, get something out there and just take it easy. And then, you know, from there you kind of put together a plan on what you're going to do, you know, after your initial investments. I don't know. I just think, I mean, it's a good problem, but it does cause a problem. It would cause a problem because, you know, at that you have a target on your back.
Oh, yeah.
Not only you, your loved ones, you know, your kids, your nephews, your nieces, you got a target on your back. You know, but like I said, I guess it's a good problem. I want to get into current state, future state. Now, I just put that as a topic because this is stuff you and I always talk about. Mm-hmm. Tell me your plans. We kind of know the current state of your imagination as it continues to morph. Tell me about the future state of it.
Well, the future state is definitely, I would say, moving towards more video content, more diverse content. I know just myself personally, I want to do a podcast on, you know, that's focused on career coaching and everything associated with career transition, you know, what's going on in the workforce in the United States, and, you know, people that have made that transition from one career to another, and interviewing those folks. I'm definitely excited about that. You know, the Filthy Dish is definitely going to be coming back and having more video. Well, it didn't have video content at all. It was pure audio, but actually bringing that video element to that show. And also, you know, I'm definitely, you know, when I first put this thing together, I did want to have other folks that were interested in getting a podcast off the ground that was serious about. That's the other side of it. Serious about getting the podcast off the ground, and kind of putting together a group of shows, if you will, and producing those shows. So having that, still wanting to put together a nice website that reflects the vision in all of those shows properly. So definitely want to have a new website launched for, Jamagination before, the end of the year. So yeah, man, just getting back to doing one of the many things that I love, and podcasting is definitely a passion of mine that I want to get back to, but I also want to help other people. Like you said, from barbershop sports and the stuff that we were doing there, you got, you already had the Late Night Parents blog, but now you got the Late Night Parents podcast, D2.5, a.k.a. Brother Danny Thompson. He's got his NBA Full Court Press. And, even Espo, who was associated with the show for a time, had a couple podcasts that spun off from that as well, with Third and Long and the other football show that he was doing. So, we want to kind of take what we've been doing, so basically the Filthy Dish, and then adding on my coaching podcast in the first or second quarter, and then start looking for other shows as well who want to join the Jamagination Network.
No, that's fair. That's fair, because I think that's where a true strength that you have in seeking out talent, seeing where it is, seeing where you want to take it. I think that's your forte. That is your forte, because and the one thing I've always said to you, it's always bigger than and you said it back to me also. It's always bigger than Late Night Parents or Barbershop Sports or Filthy Dish. It's more about the Jamagination, that brand, that when you see that brand, you can get X, Y, or Z. Because maybe you're not a parent. Maybe you're a single person. Maybe you're not into sports. Maybe you're not into what's the name, pop culture. But what you've just done is you've given 3 or 4 different options. You throw enough against the wall, something's going to stick for that person, or who's listening to the show, who wants to download the show while they work out, who's commuting during the daytime, who looks forward towards the podcast, for whatever reason. Hey, they're kind of funny. I think BSS was so fun for me because, dude, you guys are comedians. You guys are straight comedians. It was just sitting there and could just go on and on and on, and you're just like, oh, my God. But there's so many different flavors, and it's good. Like I said, you got your finger on the pulse. And for the last, I think since I'm going to say like right around Thanksgiving, we've been re-airing Late Night Parents on Jamagination just to keep Jamagination fresh and going. And I got to tell you, the following from Jamagination alone, when I insert that podcast, and the amount of people that are listening, that are pulling the podcast, because it's not live, it's not the pushes, it's the pulls, and it's incredible. So the following is already there, or pieces of traces of that following are already there. So I definitely know you got your, like I said, you always got your eye on the prize. What just before we wrap up, what were your thoughts of the podcast movement? Because I don't know what to expect this summer. I'm really excited about it. I've paid my money. I've heard some great things. I've seen some people that are slated that spoke last year versus the ones that are coming back this year. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh man, it's an awesome conference for people of all levels in podcasting. Whether you are, that sound engineer that has his mics, going through a mixer and adjusting your levels, if you're doing it to that extent and producing your shows, or if you just, plugging up a snowball mic into your laptop and got your Blog Talk account or your Spreaker account or, whatever, one of those platforms and just getting out there and doing it and messing it up a few times and getting choppy and all that kind of stuff that kind of comes with the territory and going into podcasting, it gives you a chance to really see what the potential is for your platform and how to take it to the next level if you're really serious there. I mean, it's not they have, the keynote speakers like last year, you have folks like Aisha Tyler, from Girl on Guy podcast. And of course, she's done a whole lot of other things besides that. You have Mark Maron from WTF podcast. But of course, he's been in comedy for years and years and years. So he's been known. He's had a brand. But when you drill down, there were very beneficial things like, how can you build an email marketing campaign? What's the benefits to that? Stuff like that. If you wanted to get into terrestrial radio, how do you do that? You have people from different radio stations talking to you, giving you real world, advice, and it's very organized, well put together. They even had something there was a booth where you could take professional headshots, for your podcast, so you can have a real professional looking picture to put in your new and noteworthy on iTunes and stuff like that to just, really, really sell what you're trying to do. So, I know I just said a mouthful, but it's worth its weight in gold. And if you're serious about being a podcaster and taking your game to the next level, then you definitely want to be there.
All right. You didn't have to sell me, but I'm sold. and I was supposed to be there last summer. I had a previous business engagement. Well, no, it wasn't business. It was a family engagement that I couldn't get myself out of. So I couldn't attend, but I heard all the great things that you were talking about. And definitely, like I said, I'm signed up. I'm looking forward to getting down there and rubbing shoulders. But I got to ask you, we got a few more minutes. I've got to get your take on, well, it's not really a serious topic, but it's something that you and I used to kick around all the time. Does terrestrial radio really matter anymore? We're in the age of podcasting where, hey, we can manage our own platform and get it out there. Does terrestrial radio even matter to us anymore?
Well, yes and no. And I'll say yes because terrestrial radio is still a medium where you can actually turn a dial and your voice is, broadcasted to thousands or millions depending on the strength of the signal. But I'll say no because you're not limited to having to go and buy airtime and stuff like that just to be able to get your voice heard. If you get out there and you really, really work on that podcast and like the old saying goes, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And if you do stuff like go to the podcasters conference and really, soak up that knowledge and build your email marketing campaigns and learn how to make professional looking videos to advertise your show and really, really dial in and find out how to use things like Pinterest and all those other social media platforms to really, really push your podcast, then you can definitely build a sizable following out there, just by really, really soaking up that knowledge and taking it from there. A lot of folks, as far as iTunes go, get into that new and noteworthy section, and you kind of take that and use that as a launching pad. So, Ted, man, you can get out there and podcast and really get a nice audience if you really hustle.
And I had to ask you that question because that was some of the information I pulled from you, from just talking with you. And I'm going to tell you this much. Getting involved in those Facebook groups that you've introduced me to for just pure podcasters, not the type of groups where, hey, listen to my show. It's going to be on such and such, such and such. Because you know what? Every once in a while, that's great. But then at a certain point, you become tone deaf. Because, if the only thing I hear from you is, hey, listen to my show, it's coming on at 10 o'clock, it's a one-sided conversation. Whereas if you're offering, if this is more like a communities of practice, a listserv where you can throw out ideas and other people can ask questions and answer questions, I find some strength in that. I'm going to answer the question that I just asked you. I think terrestrial is dying. I think it's dying a slow death because any time where you have Apple and you have Android and they're developing Apple Play and Android Play, for the cars, it's pointing towards the medium of, hey, we know you don't want to hear what's available because we play the same 5 records within a day. We play it about 20 times. But, hey, if you want to hear about XYZ podcasters, there's ways for you to pull that info and listen to it in your car as you're driving to work or you're driving to school or to the store. I think, personally, I think within the next 7 to 10 years, as terrestrial as we know it is going to die. It's going to dry up. Where you look at iHeart, and iHeart has about 850 stations, I would say at least, between 800 to 1,000 stations. I think that's what you're going to find. So when I say die, I don't mean the actual death like there's going to be a grave and a tombstone. I'm just thinking that local flavor that we all grew up with. Remember, you used to have the local guy that you listened to, and he used to, talk about the local issues. Less and less you have that. You have more now of the syndicated Steve Harvey, Tom Joyner, D.L. Hughley in the afternoons, Russ Parr. And that's just for African Americans. It's the same wherever you go. You got Ryan Seacrest on 1,100 stations. If you look at it, that from my perspective, is it going to actually die? I don't know. I'm thinking they're wheeling it down. Where you're going to have a few personalities, and that's that. And everything will be that whatever going on those various shows, and then they'll do the commercial break. That's where they'll bring the person that's going to read the local news. That's where it's going. So I'm thinking, hey, podcasting is great. The podcasting is wonderful. It allows us all to get out there. I think the next wave, once again, you touched upon the next wave. We were doing the next wave 2 years ago. We were doing the video podcasting a couple of years ago. And that's why I say we always stay ahead of the game, which is to me, which is important. You and I both technically got out of sports. Why? One of our friends, one of our consultants said, hey, the sports market is cluttered. Find your niche. How many different people have we spoken with over the years and they said, you got to find your niche? Now, if you're going to be a baseball, a basketball, or a football show, you got to look. They're a dime a dozen. The cream of the crop are with the various, broadcast stations, and then each of those stations have a small outshoot. So kind of like how ESPN had Grantland and 538, and how Fox has Yardbarker, and each of them, like Sports Illustrated has 120 Sports. So there's that piece. The insiders, I think they're called the insiders. They're on NBA TV. They were podcasters.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just thinking, terrestrial radio, as we know it, is dying, because if you look at how these cars are being built, 10 years ago, terrestrial was taking a hit because of satellite radio. And you got a lot of people that want to go to satellite. It's just a different avenue. I'm just thinking this method right now, where your voice is being heard and it's unfiltered, and there's no engineer between you or I. There's a telecom connection, and it's unscripted for the most part, because we're just two people that can sit here and just talk forever and ever about any given topic, and that shows our strengths. That's just my take on terrestrial. I know some people are going to be pissed off because that's just how they are, and people are always going to hate. Time is running short, but what's your thought with social media? What's your thought? What's going to be what's the hot? What's going to be, I guess, this year's Twitter or 3 years ago's Facebook? I've been hearing about Peach. Do you use Snapchat, Hez? I don't use this type of stuff. What's your thoughts on that?
It's funny. I was just talking with somebody about Snapchat earlier this morning, about me not really understanding how to use it yet, but I understand how powerful it is, because it's really, capturing things right in the moment and putting memes and of yourself, So it's definitely powerful. I think whatever social media application is able to capitalize on video. I know Facebook has really made some steps towards that. Obviously, Instagram, but Snapchat, like you mentioned. There's actually another one that I was looking at last year that I found out about at Podcasters Movement in Dallas last year. Is Clamor. Now Clamor is a social media application that takes a small bite-sized piece of a podcast or a radio show, and it plays the best 18 seconds of it. Reason why they cut it down that short is because they know in this era people have very short attention spans. So I'm curious to see how they promote that and how they grow that, because if they really get to the point to where they can catch on to the best of clips of everything, from the news to radio to podcasting, that could really, take off as far as the audio game goes. But, people outside of that, they really, really like video content. So anything that has something to do with video is definitely going to take off. That being said, H5 has, speaking in the third person now, that's me. For those that don't know, they hear the first part of the podcast. I typically haven't done, a whole lot of video, but I definitely see the need to do that more, because people really want to see who's talking.
It's true. Hey, we got about 6 minutes left. I want to ask you about New Year's resolutions. Well,
with this whole movement and the coaching and everything, I'm calling it New Year's evolutions now. So, for me, is your typical one that most people say, lose weight, but I'm actually working with a fellow coach in my class as far as putting together smart goals around that. And those things are going pretty well so far. My goal for that is to lose 10 pounds a month. Business-wise, definitely getting my coaching practice off the ground and getting together a group of clients that I'm working with on a regular basis. or victims, as you call them, and also, you know, getting podcasting going again and getting that Imagination brand rolling. So for 2016, you know, definitely getting healthy, obviously, because if you don't have your health, you can't do any of the rest of that stuff. So focusing on that, but also, you know, like I said, getting back into podcasting and, you know, taking some of those other ventures on, getting the coaching practice off the ground and stuff like that. So how about you?
I think for me, it's kind of looking at my current profession, seeing what are my next steps. I'm taking a step back because I think a few years ago, I like to say, oh, I reached the mountaintop, you know, and then you finally, it kind of finally hits you. You're like, is that really the mountaintop? Is that really what you wanted to do? So from there, I'm just reassessing right now. I'm taking about 60 days to reassess what I'm currently doing during the daytime. During the evenings, getting hard on understanding the podcasting, refining it, making some fine tunes to it, to the show, to how I interact with people. The one thing that I haven't really capitalized on, I mean, I've capitalized on it somewhat, but not on a steady basis, is monetizing the podcast. And that's one of the things I want to pick up and have a better understanding way before the podcast movement, is to have that plan and set up, have the goals written, the plan already set up. I just want to read something really quick to you, because I know we're about to close. It was 25% of resolutions have already failed. And it just basically talks about how we aren't keeping our New Year's resolutions, and as research shows, neither are your readers. So it's an article I'm going to send to you from Forbes, said that more than half of all of your resolutions are discarded within the first 6 months. Incredibly, 25% of the resolutions are broken within the first week. And it really talks about considering and following some tips. There's this campaign called the Paper and Packaging, How Life Unfolds campaign. It tells you some things you can work on, saying, pen a greeting card to an old friend or relative just because. Help someone carry their grocery bags. Honor a loved one's birthday or anniversary with before and now framed photos. Surprise wait staff with a generous tip. So like when you and the first lady are out, I mean, I'm guess they're not saying drop a $50 tip on the table, but something decent. Brown bag it for a week and donate your saved lunch money to a good cause or share with someone in need. Basically thoughtful gestures frequently involve paper and packaging, whether a simple means of expressing love and staying connected or bigger unconventional ways to make someone's day. So it's the small things in life. I think it's important that people still connect and continue. And I think, hey, this was I just called the show Just Rhyming With H5, because it's not often. I mean, people wouldn't know that we're, 1,200 miles away from each other, but it's always good to chat with you and connect with you. Want to know, we got about 90 seconds left. What's the best ways to get in contact with you via social media?
Well, like you mentioned at the top of the hour, you can get at me at genuinelyh5 on Twitter and Instagram. So those are two ways you can reach out to me. Also, Imagination I still run that Twitter handle as well. So those are primarily the three ways that you can get at me. Unless you in the inner circle, you can get at me on Facebook as well.
You got it. So you know what? It was a refreshing, good talk. Just chatting. Like I said, no real format, We didn't really talk about the sports and this and all this other stuff, but it didn't matter. Dude, I had a great time. As always, you know, hey, I'll be speaking with you within a day or so. You stay up, all right?
All right, my brother. Appreciate it, man. It was a pleasure.
All right. Thanks again.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Peace.